DDP, welcome to Straight to Hell. How the hell are you doing today?
Hellacious, man. I just went through a hellacious workout. Jake is back on track to working out, so he came here early this morning, and I put him through a workout. And every last, I guess it's 4 out of the last 6 days he's been over here when he wasn't on the road, and he's back to getting back caught up with his DDPY, and already, but 4 days in, he's already much stronger and more pliable, if you will. Because when you get to our age, I'm going to be 66 April 5th. He will be 67 May 30th. When you get to our age, man, all that crazy shit we did catches up to you, man. I mean, I feel so bad for these guys today with the crazy shit they do, and they're unbelievable athletes, but they have no idea what's coming, and it's coming straight from hell.
Nice segue, but they should get involved with DDP. Why shouldn't they straight away get on the train early?
Well, there's a few guys who are really hip to it. Of course, Jericho, and he's still going 10 years later after they told him his career was over when he was 41. I believe he's 51 now. And Cat's still going. And he tells everybody, he got AJ Styles and friggin' McIntyre and guys who get it. Like, they understand that when you're not wrestling, you need to be rehabbing, like preparing to keep going, and forget going while you're doing this, because you want to live the dream as long as possible. But when it gets to the end, and your 40s aren't that bad, your 50s are pretty rough. Your 60s, that's a whole different animal, man.
So I guess you could say the schedule for all wrestlers of any era is relentless. And speaking of relentless, there's a certain documentary on Amazon Prime. I'm a professional, you see, Dallas. I'm a professional. And if we were doing a non-professional wrestling version of Straight to Hell, I assume your former business partner who went on eBay with your program and started selling it for cheaper, I assume he would be the first thing to go to hell.
Yeah, he would be the first one at the time. Unfortunately, he's passed, so I don't know if he's there or not right now.
I'm sorry.
I would hope that he didn't have to go to hell. Wasn't that bad. But if it was prior to him leaving the earth, yes, I would let because back then we weren't really making any money. And what money we were making was going right back into the company. Those first 8 years, it took 8 years. It's so crazy because it took 8 years to be in overnight success in professional wrestling. And it took 8 years with DDPY, to be an overnight success and relentless. I think anyone who's, an inspiring dreamer, meaning that, like, look what you're doing. You're doing something that you love to do. Yeah. You love doing the podcast. You came up with your own niche, and you're getting to do it and have fun doing it. And that's the whole key to secret. And then figuring out a way to get someone to pay you to do it. And, that's the real secret. But once you figure that out, and that's what Relentless will do for you, it'll make you believe, like, man, maybe I could do whatever that dream is that you're reaching for. A lot of guys, I can't tell you how many guys tell me you were my inspiration. Starting wrestling at 35 and a half, I was 34 when I started, or I was 36 when I started. And their goal wasn't to get to the show, to the WWF or WWE or AEW. It's to live the dream and get out there and perform in front of people. So as long as you're realistic, you really can do pretty much anything.
Yeah, that was the main thing I took away from the documentary, because I think I first became aware of DDPY by listening to Talk Is Jericho and hearing him speak about it. This might have been 2013, 2014 sort of time, a few years ago now. But it's the journey from the days when it was yoga for regular guys into DDPY that I just had no idea about, and the struggles and how you came through all that stuff. It's amazing to see.
Yeah, and that's really, I wanted to show a lot of people, they don't want to show the ugly. They don't want to show the downtrodden spot, when that's really the story. That's the journey. And when you can really open up and, let people know how hard it was to get there. Like if disabled veteran Arthur Norman, that's the guy who put us on the map. I had helped him 5 years earlier. And I did a video with his son and it got some traction. But Steve Yu, who's a master storyteller, president of my company, he's just a master storyteller. He's the director of Resurrection of Jake the Snake. He's executive producer of Relentless. So we gave a young, talented guy, Nathan Mowry, an opportunity to direct this. And he did a hell of a job, but he did it with our supervision too and our guidance. And, it allowed him to live a dream, but at the same time, he was talking about a story that someone who lived a dream, not once, but twice, and now 3 times, Yeah. And you just got to keep working towards it and never giving up. That's the whole thing.
So we'll deal with one of your entries for Straight to Hell now. But before we do so, just to sort of understand where you're coming from in terms of the things you want to send to hell about professional wrestling, what is it above all else that you love about professional wrestling?
What do I love about it? I love the people's participation. That's what I love. I love to be able to, get to a spot. And I didn't really get to it till I was working with Johnny B. Bad, AKA Mark Merrow. And we were working on matches because they wouldn't put us on the road because it was already a full roster and they weren't putting us on the road. So we'd go down to power plant and we'd work out the story, right? And that's what all these kids do down in NXT. That's what they're doing because they're not really on the road. So we'd work out these stories, and my matches were always like laid out, and it was preparation meets improvisation. And when you get to the part of the story, when you hit that false finish and it's 1, 2, and you hear the whole crowd go, oh, like, oh, we got him.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't screw it up, you can really take them and take them and take them and take them. As long as you're not the biggest bump wasn't the first one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's the participation of the people. The people, to me, are as big a part of the show as the boys or the girls in the ring. Because that's why when I did my last match at AEW, and it was a 6-man tag. So it wasn't just slide into a diamond cutter and get out. I blew the comeback and came off the top rope to the guys on the floor. That, if there was no people there, I never would have done it. Because the people lost their mind when I came through. Jake Roberts sent me a text. No ring rust? What the fuck? He was blown away the way I was moving out there. Now I wasn't moving at 1 month from 2 months from 64 like I was when I was 44.
Yeah.
But I was moving pretty damn good, and people got into it. But when I went off that top rope, they lost their minds. And for anybody who missed that, let me see. I got a picture over here. This is a great shot. And there's QT and Dustin and the Butcher down there to catch my so almost 64 years old ass flying through the air. The storytelling and the people. And the thing I love in a great match is the storytelling, like how you brought me there. I don't want to get to the end. There's times where people should just go home right now, because you're not going to get them to pop any bigger than that. And if you bring them down here, not as, you don't leave them the same way,
Yeah, it's just weird looking back at the date of that. It was the 15th of January 2020, literally 2 months maybe before the pandemic started. I imagine you wouldn't get the same feeling if you did that big splash, which nobody expected to see, despite the fact you show in such incredible shape at your age, obviously. Just you wouldn't have the same feeling because there would have been no response to it, obviously.
I wouldn't have done it. Yeah. I would have just, I would have bailed. I would have said, okay. Now, if we would have had the people and then the last week, that week they shut it down, I would have done it then. But I wouldn't have liked it, man.
Yeah.
You have to have the people with you. And when I say with you, I mean booing you out of the building or cheering you. You don't want them sitting on their hands.
Yeah.
And today, some matches, they're doing both. Who cares? They're reacting, whether it's positively or negatively, to whatever the story is.
So there we go. If I could ask you for your first thing that you'd like, just anything about professional wrestling that you would like to see rot in hell for the rest of eternity, what would that first thing be?
It would be my entry, not my first day in the WWE. It would be the whole stalker angle. I mean, if I could literally make that disappear, because I can't tell you how many people come up to me and say to me, man, you were one of my favorites. I was so pissed what they did to you in WWE. And I don't hold any of that. I don't hold any of that angst, because the WWE 5 years later, once we started doing the Best of Nitro and bringing Jake out there, when last time people saw Jake, he was in that the dark, what is that, Dark Side? He was in what the hell was it called? Beyond the Mat.
Beyond the Mat, that's the one.
Where that son of a bitch director showed him smoking crack. I mean, he had no regard for Jake. Jake trusted him, and he had no regard for his family. You see, your kids are going to watch that, and it's going to kill them. And it almost killed Jake. And that's where Jake, he just kept going. And I tried to help him a bunch of times, but he wasn't ready yet. You got to be ready. Nobody can help anybody who's 400 pounds to lose weight. You can't help anybody who's a coke or a crack or an alcoholic. You can't help them until they want to be helped, and then it's still a journey, So, for me, that would be the first thing that would run in hell and be gone with it.
Was it just because you were, obviously there's this sort of fable about Vince McMahon that if he doesn't create something and it's really popular elsewhere when he brings it into WWE or WWF as it was back then, he just doesn't want to know about it? Do you think that was because I was a WCW child. All I saw was Worldwide on a Friday night on Channel 4, and watching you do your thing back then, it was amazing to see. The People's Champion on one side was The Rock, you were the one and you the one. And that's how it's right. That match, obviously, you spoke many times, is the one you regret not having in your career. Do you think that's what it is, though? Vince McMahon saw this thing, DDP, the People's Champion, created over there, and just didn't want to give it the credit it deserved?
I think that it was way deeper than that. I think we almost put him out of business at one point. I mean, they were close. And then that's when they turned the knob up with what I think is the second greatest angle of all time. The NWO is the greatest angle of all time. When Hulk turned, Scott and Kev and then Hulk. I mean, forget about it. There's nothing, no one can convince me of anything was hotter than that, because I lived it. And I lived it from the bottom to the top. So I lived it and was right there. The second greatest angle is Austin McMahon. Like, unbelievable. If they were going on at the same time, I can't imagine what would have happened in wrestling.
Yeah.
Those ratings might have doubled on both sides. I mean, if they would have been that hot. But, that was the momentum turner. And go back to, we almost put them out of business. And I would never have believed that in a million years. But Eric Bischoff didn't say he wanted to put him out of business. He wanted to knock him out, though. He wanted to be number one. And I thought to myself, as I'm watching this in the early stages, because I'm right next to Eric Bischoff. We live across the street from each other. We're best friends. I thought he was smoking crack. I'm like, what are you thinking? You're never going to, beat Vince McMahon because he's so much here and we're here. But then it started, and just things started to happen. When that Monday Nitro went, boom, 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 until we started doing this. Yeah. And it was crazy, man. So I think it was Vince's way of saying, oh, WCW beat us? Here's one of their top baby faces. Boom. Yeah. And if I was to work with Taker, just say today, if it was 3 years later, I think me and Mark would have torn it down. I think we would have gelled perfectly. It was just I didn't realize, I was on Stone Cold Steve Austin's podcast, and he asked me, like, did you realize, like, yeah, everybody was fighting for their life, you know, because they were in a bad spot. And then when they came back, I didn't realize that I came in with all that heat. I didn't realize it till I got there.
Yeah.
And then it still took a couple of weeks. And then I realized, ooh, I should have taken the money. Like, I walked away. If you were someone who was wanted by WWE and you had a contract with WCW, they would pay you 50 cents on the dollar and you could go. Well, I wasn't going to do that. And me, Nash, Goldberg, we had a big lawsuit with Turner because they weren't paying us for a lot of their merchandise. Like, and I don't really think they were trying to screw us. I think they had no idea. I mean, one of the things I'm looking for, like, when am I going to get paid for the bowling balls and the leagues and that? Yeah. And they couldn't tell me you never had a bowling ball because someone sent me one. And that was one example of 20 that I could give you that I never saw a dime for. And Vince McMahon, he may give you next to nothing, but he gives you something for everything.
Yeah.
Like they are a marketing machine. And WCW wasn't used to all that at the time. They ended up giving me 70 cents on the dollar, but I had to walk away from $487,000. I had to leave on the table. That's how much I wanted to go to the WWE. But also, I was 45. It wasn't like I was 35 or even 40. I was 45, and I didn't know how much gas I had in the tank. I knew I had a couple of years, but I mean, what am I going to take another half a year off? Go in with everybody? Would have been way smarter. What would have been the smartest thing would have been to stay out completely. Wait, like after everybody goes in, then come.
Yeah.
And that would have been the smartest move. But again, that's Monday morning quarterbacking, you know, and my life wouldn't be the same. What I've learned, like when I try to teach everyone, if you up, and I up there, I didn't think I did at the time. You know, my lawyer didn't think so. Nobody did. This is going to be amazing. If I don't up there, I am never the success with DDP Yoga, even though it took me 8 years to be an overnight success there too. And $548,000 I had invested without taking a dime. I would never have learned, because what I should have done during that meeting with Vince McMahon is I should have got up. When he said he wanted me to stalk another man's wife, I don't care whose wife it was. They don't look like Kimberly, who's sitting right across from him. You know what I mean? Yeah. And what I should have done was saying, Vince, are you looking at my wife? Like, I'm going to stalk who? And I should have got up, shook his hand, shook Shane's hand, and said, thanks so much for the opportunity. Love meeting you guys. When you're ready to do People's Champion versus People's Champion, give me a call.
Yeah.
That's what I should have done. Again, Monday morning quarterback. But the lesson I learned, you can't be afraid to walk away from the table when you have it all.
Yeah.
Like, I'll give you an example of today. Right now, I don't know what Cody's doing. I don't know where he's going or what's happening, because I told him I don't want to know. You know, I don't want to know. I want to watch and see what he does. Right now, though, he's got the world in his hands. He's Cody Rhodes. He started the AEW. You know, You could say the whole group did, but I was there and watched him book and create everything that started from All In out. And today, you know, we'll see where he turns and where he ends up. You know, is it a storyline for AEW? Who knows? I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I want to sit back and watch, because he's a smart guy and he will do the smart thing. Now, will he screw up from here to there? That will remain to be seen. I'm a pretty smart guy. and I did. So going in, I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with he's like my nephew, and we and him are really tight, but I told him I don't want to know.
It's really, really surprising to hear, because I've seen an interview with Cody where he speaks about you always, no matter if it was some sort of wrestling tournament when he was a kid, you were always there and you were always supporting him. That's why he had you at ringside for the all-out match against Nick Aldis. All-in match, sorry, against Nick Aldis. I'm surprised he didn't come to you for some advice after what's happened to him.
Well, he did. I just didn't want to know how, because it doesn't matter what I say. He's going to do that's the same way I am. I went to his father when it came down to, should I go?
Yeah.
And you know what he said? Take the money. No, do not go. Kevin Nash, if I listen to Kevin Nash throughout my entire career, and there's a lot of times I've listened to Kevin Nash, but there's a few key moments I did it. This was one of them.
Yeah.
He said, take the money. Don't be an idiot. Go in with all of us, or go in later. If I listen to Kevin Nash, I would have a minimum of $3 million more dollars in my bank account than I do. And I mean 3 million. And I can go boop, 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 boop. And I still got millions. But I would have had way more if I listened. Kevin Nash is one of the smartest guys in the business.
Yeah.
And so is Cody. And I gave him my opinion. And he's going to do what he's going to do. And I'm really looking forward to seeing it, because, he's my boy, and I want to wish him the best,
If you were a betting man, and I don't know if this is putting you on the spot too much, where do you think he will end up?
I would like to see him end up at the show, because he should be the main. He should be a main event. He proved himself by leaving. And I don't know how much he was making when he left, but I know what the boys make. And a guy who was working at around his level with his, 7 years into the company, 8 years, 10 years in, he was making probably $500,000 a year. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Nowhere near as much as he would end up making with AEW, but he had to go away to prove that you don't see me as a top guy, but I do. Now, you're talking to somebody who really understands that psychology.
Yeah.
He went away and started working 5 nights a week, because that's one of the great things. Right before the pandemic, there was, from the UK, Mexico, Japan, the United States, you could make a good living as a wrestler and never been to the show if you had talent, and if you had charisma, and if you had people behind you, because wrestling in the independent world is really like a whole, almost like it was where there was federations back in the day. But in Chicago, there's 8 different federations in Chicago.
Yeah.
That's why they did All in Chicago. Probably one of the best wrestling cities ever. My favorite place to wrestle. So, you've got to go away sometimes. And when he did the old 10,000 people thing, and Meltzer chimed in, well, you guys are really a little ahead of yourself and full of yourself, and maybe 4,000. And Cody fired back on Twitter. This isn't an angle. This is something that happened organically. I'll take that bet. Now he really whoa, you really put yourself out there, and, the Young Bucks and him and Kenny. And man, I was there at All In. That was one of the most electric shows I was ever at. So let's go back to, what do you think's the favorite thing about wrestling? It's the people.
Yeah.
It's the people's reaction. And I was lucky enough to be a heel starting out, and easy to get heat, cheap heat, easy. The people turned me babyface.
Yeah.
Because of this diamond cutter sign and the move. And my guy who no one was going to hold down. Like, I'm going to be a main event guy. Tell me I'm not. You're wrong. And it's kind of like, and not putting myself on this level at all, but Muhammad Ali said what he was going to do and then he did it.
Yeah. That's
who Diamond Dallas Page is, was, and will always be. If I tell you I'm doing something, you can take it to the bank.
To circle back around to the Stalker angle, though, I just need to ask one question. Was there any reservations from Undertaker's side of the camp?
I don't really know. I know that, like, we didn't have the best chemistry out there. So, I don't know. It's one of those things that for me, I would love to do over again under different circumstances, but it is what it is. It's life.
Yeah.
And like I said, it taught me the greatest lesson. Never be afraid to walk away from the table.
Yeah.
If you've got something really special. And that's what Cody Rhodes, if he is going to end up in WWE, he will be the first.
Yeah.
There's only one person who is the first to defect, and he did it as classy. If that's the case, he did it as classy as you can be. Because what he said to me, he called me right before, the hit the fan. Because I would have been like, seriously, you didn't call me, and he said, I love Tony Khan. Tony Khan loves me. It's just something I need to do right now. He goes, we'll talk later, but it's something I need to do right now. I said, dude, you do what you think is right. You're a smart guy, and I want you, for me, what I would like to see him go back there. I'd like to see him be the world champ.
Yeah.
That's what I would like to see. If I was booking, that's how I would build that, because it's a great story. And, his old man, God, I'm trying to think who he had the match with. Maybe it was Superstar. I can't remember who it was with, but it was one of those deals where in the Garden, they put the world title on him. And the place went crazy. And this is something WWE would do once in a while. And then, get it all out. And then here comes the commissioner.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And they take the title away from him, And it gave the people the pop, but then gave them the, bullshit. Again, what do you love the most about wrestling? The people's reaction.
Yeah.
When you've got them and you got them right there. And as great as that moment is, like, to me, I'd rather than do a DQ finish, I'd rather do the job on a finish and then come out of it and hit him with a diamond cutter.
Yeah.
Even though I don't win, he ends up laying. Who cares about winning? You get a double reaction. You get people pissed off, and then boom, he hits it. Yeah. So you get, again, it's like the people. The people are everything, man.
Yeah. So we have the Stalker angle down in hell. DDP, if I asked you for a second thing to send down to hell about professional wrestling, what would it be?
The invasion angle.
Right, I'm going to ask a question. This might come out really stupid because I'm not a businessman. I'm a very thick man from north of England. Why didn't everyone who was on that level of a contract, who had the opportunity to sit out and go away from the wrestling world for a while, let the deal play out, why didn't they all just sit out at the same time and then all come back at the same time? This is from Vince McMahon's point of view, I'm guessing. Why couldn't Vince just bring all, yourself, Goldberg, Kevin Nash, NWO, bring them all back at the same time after going away for a little while?
Well, for starters, all those guys were making real money. Like, I was making really good money. But guys like Goldberg and Hulk and, friggin' Nash and Scotty, those guys were making real money. They were making, I was making 7 figures, but they were making, big, real sweet numbers. So that would have been, Vince would have to probably match that.
Yeah.
If he was going to try to get them to come out and walk away from money. You know, that's my own personal opinion. And I think it was really the way they wanted to do it. They wanted to beat down the two top guys, which would be me, you know, and Book. But Book had a great run there.
Yeah.
Booker had a great run there because he had time. If I would have been Booker's age, I would have had time to turn that all around. You know, Vince McMahon would end up loving me, you know, because he would have saw, okay, I'll take it on the chin here, but I'm going to come back, you know, and just you never give up. But again, it was age. It was, you know, and when I finally almost broke my neck, which would be the third thing you could straight to hell.
Get it down there.
Because I you know, had that match with Bobby Holly, and I just had that match at WrestleMania with Christian, and Michael Hayes came up to me and he said Vince loved the match. Like, according to Hayes and Pat Patterson, who came up to me and gave me a big hug, and like, that was a hell of, like, yeah, because now you're giving me someone who's going to work with me. And, you know, gotta understand, I didn't really think about this, but Taker's gimmick is not selling.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, I'm going to be the heel. I'm going to come in. He's not going to sell. And, oh, man, what was I thinking? Because that's his character. It wasn't like him screwing me. It's what he did. And if you look back from Shawn Michaels on out, they flew around like, you know, all over for him. But they were already a made character.
Yeah. I
wasn't. You know, so you really had to bring someone like me, Kevin Nash or Scott Hall, not the same thing, or Hulk, because they've been there.
Yeah.
You know, if you look about how they handled Goldberg, they pushed Goldberg like crazy when they brought him in, right?
Yeah.
You know, and they still are. You know, and that's 20 years ago, bro.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what you would have done. In this scenario, they didn't do that. So again, it's something I learned. Oh, okay, that was a mistake. So when I broke my neck, almost broke my neck, that can go straight to hell, because that's something that'll stick with me forever.
Yeah. And
at that point in time, they wanted me to be a color commentator. But I came in there and I didn't even want to do it. I got in there. God, that's what I did in Florida Championship Wrestling with Gordon Soley for friggin' 2.5 years, making $50 a night. It cost me $38 in gas for me and my Corvette to go from Fort Myers to Tampa and back again. So I made $12, but I wasn't there for the money. I was there to learn. And I went up there and I did just a test, and Kevin Dunn loved it. And he called me up. He's like, "You're the next Jesse Ventura. I want to start you on here or here." And I was so burned out on wrestling at that point. I just needed some time. And I said, "Listen, Kev," I said, I just need some time away, bro. I'm just burned because I'm coming off that whole angle. I tore my meniscus during it, you know, so I almost broke my neck. You know, I'm like, I need some time down. He said, take 2 weeks. Take 2 weeks to think about it. He called me up 2 weeks later. I said, "Hey, Kev, I just need some time." He went, click. And I didn't hear from those guys for 5 years.
That's a bit hard.
And then they finally called me to do the Very Best of Nitro.
Yeah. Which
sold like crazy.
Yeah.
Like, that's why they did 3 volumes of it, you know, and that was the beginning of me getting back in the fold and doing things with the company. I mean, I do stuff with the company all the time. You know, they're going to do one of those documentaries on me, you know, that they do at AEW. They do I've done everything from, you know, signing, you know, cards to whatever. They send me all that stuff. And so I'm in the family as close as a guy can be that wasn't raised there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Would that have been for Raw SmackDown back then for the commentary role? Just interested who you might have replaced at the time.
They said they want to start me. He said they would have started me in the satellite show, and SmackDown's where I would have ended up. And he said, in no time you'll be on Raw. But I just wasn't the guy. I wasn't ready, even though that's one of the things I really thought I would end up doing. You know, at that point, I really started focusing on my acting career. And I knew I could already act. I'd been in a couple things, but I really wanted to learn how to grab the real emotion. And so I went to Howard Fine's acting studio and worked my way up to the master's class. And I was there and worked with Howard for 4 years. And I would get roles here and there, you know, and, you know, now with Netflix coming out with Guardians of Justice, like that thing took us 7 years to put it where it is today. And I know we're going to get lucky with at least a niche audience, you know, the fanboy, the gamer, which both of those things are huge audiences. And what's really unique about the Guardians of Justice, first of all, it's going worldwide. Like I've seen the trailer. The trailer they have up there is not the right trailer because they won't put the right trailer up there until it's in, I want to say 140 different languages. Like it's in Hindi, it's in German, it's in French, it's in everything. So when someone comes to it, they're not just seeing what they're hearing it in their language.
Yeah.
So I've seen that trailer and it is killer. And it's a satire superhero series that, you know, at times a little campy on purpose. At times there are like the fight scenes are if you took a live person or persons and stuck them in a video game. And, you know, like the bars over the head. Well, this is all set in like 1987.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of that with some zoomed up stuff. And and what's never been done before like this, especially in superhero things, is animation with regular acting. And eight different types of 2D animation from 87. Then there's 3D and there's claymation. And it mixed through the whole thing, which is really, it's unique and different and goes really fast. Do you know what Adult Swim is?
Yeah.
Okay. It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
But not. Like they've never done it like this.
I've seen a quote from the director, Adi Shankar. He says, "It's ultimately a tale of the rise of Robo-Hitler, cyborg T-Rexes with lasers, deadly ninjas, and a demonic squid alien invasion." Now, your character, Nighthawk, friends with, I've got it all written down here, friends with Marvelous Man, who's kept the Earth at peace for 40 years, has to deal with all this stuff and sort of clean up the mess of Marvelous Man, doesn't he? How does that work?
It's unique. It's unique and different. And Nighthawk, remember, this is a satire too. So Marvelous Man will remind you of another man, maybe Superman, but different. Nighthawk is kind of like, you know, Batman never gets older than 40.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't drink, he doesn't cuss, he doesn't kill. You know, he doesn't really, he hangs him by the rafters for the cops to get him. Nighthawk, he drinks, he smokes, he kills for the greater good because he knows exactly what the world needs. If I'm going to save the world, know exactly how to do it. And no one's going to freaking sway him from it. And it was really a lot of fun. And like I said, we started this 7 years ago. 7 years ago, there's F-bombs coming out of Nighthawk's mouth, and there's no Deadpool then.
Yeah.
So if Deadpool doesn't like really redirect how superhero things are done and said, Nighthawk would have been the very first guy to do that. But it was something we were going to do for YouTube that turned into something, and it just grew into this thing that Adi's vision was just bigger than his whole. Have you ever seen any of his stuff from his bootleg universe? There was, oh dude, if you go on just YouTube bootleg universe, he did something. This is just one of the things he was produced. He didn't direct this. Guardians is the first thing that he actually directed. Normally he's the visionary executive producer dude. you know, and like he did something, he had an idea for Punisher. And if you remember, now that Punisher, Punisher, because of Netflix and or DC, they have, or whichever one it is, Warner Bros., whoever did that one. I get them mixed up all the time. Now there's Punisher series, and you get to see what the Punisher character is about. But normally they put one film out. If it hits, then you see 6 of them, right? Well, that one didn't hit. So Adi came up with his own version of it, and he called it Dirty Laundry. And it's 10 minutes. And Thomas Jane, the guy who played Punisher, is playing Punisher in this short. I was supposed to have the Ron Perlman spot, which I was going to play a veteran who ran a liquor store in the hood. And it's really well done. If you would have saw that Punisher in the movie The Punisher, there might be Punisher 6 right now with Thomas Jane. Or they could have replaced him like they do the Batman thing. Yeah. You know, they just keep replacing guys. But he also did something with, which really got huge response. He did a Power Ranger R-rated version. And it's right there. If you go Bootleg Universe, that one got so fast on YouTube that the guy who owned the Power Rangers sued him and YouTube pulled it down until they realized we're not monetizing this.
Yeah.
You can't. This is a satire. You can't, we can do whatever we want to do as long as we're not making money from it.
Yeah.
And that's why you see so many Batman things that are done. They're not monetizing them. You know, if you see him doing the Joker or whatever, and any of these YouTube things that directors do just to be able to do it, there's a really good one up there. And my buddy directed this and started it. And my ex-wife is in it, Kimberly, and it's called Grayson, Grayson. It's really good. But that's the kind of stuff, but when you don't make any money with it, you can do it.
Yeah.
When you make money, they can sue your ass and pull it. In this scenario, it's a whole different animal. We've made up our own characters, and again, it's really, it was a lot of fun to do, but it's so much fun to see it finally coming out on the biggest platform in the world, because Netflix has 280 million subscribers. Now think about how many people from one subscriber are using their Netflix.
Yeah.
So what is that? 1 billion people?
Easily, gotta be.
Easily watching that, billions maybe, who knows?
Yeah, so that'll be out on Netflix by the time this one comes out. It went live on March the 1st, so get your Netflix now, and you'll see Guardians of Justice with DDP as Nighthawk trying to save the world from, I'll repeat that, Robo-Hitler.
Well, that's the beginning.
So if I can get you back on course to Straight to Hell, could you send a 4th thing about professional wrestling that just does your head in straight down to hell to wrap for the rest of eternity?
David Arquette as the world champion.
This is interesting.
David Arquette.
Yeah. Because I've had him on the show before, Diamond Dallas Page, and he says he regrets sort of being in that role, and he sort of came back to the world of professional wrestling to sort of prove wrestling fans wrong, that he does love wrestling, and he put himself through some awful things to try and prove that. So let's hear about David Arquette back in the day.
I'll tell you, what a great human being. Yeah. And I want everyone to know this who still thinks they hate him because he was the world champion. This is how it went down. Because I'm the guy who's the world champion at the time. And it's going to be me and him against Bischoff and Jeff Jarrett. Bischoff had just come back. So him and Russo, who I love, there's times I wanted to kill him, though. This is one of those moments, probably. But I love Vince. We do our own show together, the Bro Show on Sportskeeda on Instagram at 10:30 East Coast time every Thursday, and me and him and Chris. But Vince tells me that Bischoff is going to do the job. Arquette is going to pin him, and he's going to be the world champ. And I just started laughing. And he was like, I go, what are we really doing? No, we're doing that. I go, you're not doing that. You know, and I'm thinking it's a rip, you know?
Yeah.
And at some point I realized it's not. And now I'm in a different mindset where I realize what they're going to do. Now I'm like, are you fucking crazy? Like, no, like we can't do that. And Bish, I don't think Bischoff really wanted to do it as much as Vince did. And I don't know, I've never really had that conversation with either one of them. But Bish was coming in. Now he's working with Vince. It's whoever idea it is, and I'm thinking it's Vince's. I'm not sure, to tell you the truth. They're working together. So they're like, yeah, we're doing it. And when it comes down to it, I'm a fucking actor, you know, and this is your role tonight.
Yeah.
And you're the writer. So it's like, hey, I make millions of dollars to do this. It's like, you're going to do it. Like, and that's what some of the fans don't understand. It's not our decision.
Yeah.
So I go down and I tell David, as we're walking to the commissary, right? And he starts laughing. And I go, no, bro, I'm serious. He goes, yeah, right. And I go, no, I'm serious. And he goes, he stops walking and he goes, no fucking way. That's crazy. I said, that's what I said. He goes, are you serious? I go, I'm serious. I go, here's your choice. You either do it or you don't do it. And they're not going to do anything for Ready to Rumble on it.
Yeah.
I go, or you're the world champ. He goes, and he snapped in a heartbeat like every single motherfucker watching this show.
Yeah.
Every single one of you. If we were walking down that aisle and I told you you're going to be the world champ, there's not one person watching your show that wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Every single, wouldn't have you done it?
Oh, of course I would have.
Wouldn't you have done it? Of course you would have.
Deal with the repercussions later.
I think the people who are really pissed about it are so pissed because why not me? Why couldn't it be me? Not him.
Yeah.
And he made 10 grand for that. He gave the money to Melanie Pillman.
Oh.
Pillman had just passed.
Yeah.
And if you watch The Dark Side, I don't know if you guys get it over there or not.
Oh, yeah.
You will eventually. Well, you'll hear Brian Pillman Jr. thanking David Arquette for giving his mother that money. He didn't have to do that.
No.
But that's who David Arquette is. He didn't need the money. He was living a dream.
Yeah.
Being in a match, not really knowing what the hell he was doing. Later, he's filming the You Can't Kill David Arquette.
Yeah.
And he calls me up and he tells me he's going to do this. He wants me to help him. And he wants me to be Yoda. And he'll come to my DDP yoga retreat and we'll film some fun stuff. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? You're like 46 now. What are you doing? And I tried to talk him out of it. But once I saw what he was actually really doing, I was really proud of him. I mean, he put a ring in the back of his house. He worked his ass off just to show the fans, like, no, I'm one of you.
Yeah.
I love this. And I need to pay my dues. I don't want to beat anybody. I'll do the job every night. I just want to go out there and show you this is why I did this. Because he got sick of being the brunt of jokes. And to some people, he still will be. But I was there at Mania at one of those matches, and I walked out with him. Did the old freaking, coming out with the group, me and him rubbing his shoulders and stuff. The people went crazy for him. They loved him. And he had earned the respect. That crazy match he did with Nick.
Yeah.
That was crazy shit, man.
Yeah.
And that's just Nick, though. That's not him taking advantage of friggin'. He'd have done the same thing to me. I'd never put myself in that position. but David did, not knowing, not realizing, like, hey, dude, sometimes it gets real fast. And that's the difference. It's not all acting. You know, it's because ego steps in there.
Yeah.
So he would absolutely, if I could change, I would definitely have him definitely be number 4. And number 5 would be putting that belt on Vince Russo.
Say no more. Say no more.
Say no more, dude. Like, those are 3 really good things. And look, those last 3 are off the top of my head. The other ones are always there.
I've got to ask you, since you touched on Right to Rumble there, I loved Right to Rumble. I still do love Right to Rumble. There's got to be a Right to Rumble too. I put this to David Arquette as well when I spoke to him. He's game for it. Are you game to be in Right to Rumble too? Obviously, you were the big heel in Right to Rumble 1. You could be the big babyface.
Yeah. Well, you know, I don't know how. It's kind of crazy not to do it, but I don't know if anybody ever will, because Warner Brothers owns that. And let me tell you what the finish should have been. And I went to the head producer, Jeff. I can't remember his last name. I went to talk to him, and I said, "Listen, here's my idea," and I gave it to him. This is how you should end this movie. And I go, and then it'll fix everything in the middle of where you kind of make fun of people who watch wrestling.
Yeah,
you know, it'll fix all of that. And he really was like interested, so much so he got head honchos from Warner Brothers to come over, and they came to my trailer, and I gave them the finish. This is what you should do. When I'm getting carried, you know, at the end of the movie, I get carried up. You see me look back, and they carry me into the back. Now the movie's over. And like anybody who comes back, eventually Jimmy King's going to walk in that same door and walk back to the dressing room. And the credits are starting to roll.
Yeah.
And then you see me leaning up against the wall. You can tell I'm gassed, I'm bloody, you know, I'm freaking just leaning up against the wall. And here comes Jimmy King. You get that shot of him coming. And then you see me, you got those 2 shots. And then when we get right up to each other, we do what we always do. We hug. Brother, oh my God, you were so stiff for that kick. Or, oh man, you know, just laughing about shit. And then you catch Khan and Arquette watching this. And they're like, no, no. And we catch them watching us. So we walk towards them, and I grab David, he grabs Scott, puts my arm around him and go, well, boys, welcome to the business. Let's go have a beer. You know, something like that. Then you would have brought the crowd in. It's a work. It's not, we don't think it's real. You know, we know it's a work, you know. It would have been, and after they didn't do business, because they only made like, I don't know, 20 million off of that thing or something like that. But it only cost 25 to make. So I'm not sure exactly what they made. But the bottom line is it didn't cost that much to make to begin with. Now it's built a huge following, and there's so many other wrestling fans that now would friggin' see it, especially what it could do for streaming.
Yeah.
You know? It'd be the perfect thing to put up on streaming. And I wouldn't wrestle, but I would be a cameo as, you know, friggin', you know, something to do with whoever the person is, or maybe I'm running the federation then, or whatever, you know.
It'd be great to have you and Jimmy the King going at it once again. But I've got to ask you the question. You're looking at the script when you get the script for Right to Rumble, and you see the line, "A diamond upside down is a pussy." What's your first thought when you see that?
I laughed out loud, man. I laughed out loud. And then I came up with a line with a, you know, the the face, the camera. I go, that doesn't really work. You know, like certain things are common sense. There was a lot of fun I had filming that. It really beat my body up big time, you know, because of punch, bump, cut.
Yeah.
Do it again. If that movie would have came out in 98 when we were hot, that'd have pushed us over the moon. But it didn't. It came out much later. I want to say 2000 or something. But the whole thing with that whole movie, Bischoff brought me that script, and I didn't have the script, but the idea, and he wanted me to be Jimmy King.
Really?
If I would have been Jimmy King, it would have been a whole different movie.
Yeah. And
it would have been, and the fan, because Oliver Platt is a great actor, but he's not an athlete. He's not a wrestler. He knew nothing about wrestling. I thought he did a good job, but it would have been so much better if they had someone that they could have related to. And it would have been perfect for me, you know, because of my age and everything, being so much older. And most people didn't think I was older back then. They didn't realize it. That didn't come out till much later, you know?
Yeah. So finally, just before we go, got to touch on DDP Snake Pit. Obviously, I've listened to the first few episodes. It's just wonderful to hear you and Jake and Conrad as well. Obviously, just sit back and just listen to Jake tell stories. That's the main thing I'm enjoying about it. Just Jake is just a fountain of everything. Can you tell us a bit about DDP Snake Pit?
Well, you know, I didn't want to do it. But me and Jake had done and because I've been asked to do podcasts for the last 10 years. And people, we'll do everything. You don't have to do anything. And I'm like, nah, I just don't have the time. And because I'm really busy. And Jake and I just did let's have a catch up. Like, we haven't done this lately. You know, where are you now type thing with Jake. And we did like a 30-minute thing. And it just blew up and went all over the place. And Jake called me leaving there that day. And actually texted me. He goes, man, you really upped your game. The information we got out there and the way we went back and forth, that we didn't step on each other. And he goes, we need to do this. And I text him back, do what? He goes, a podcast. I go, bro. I'll call you. So I pick up the phone. I go, listen, I've been asked to do. I just don't want to do it. I don't have the time. He goes, I want you to do it with me, though. And I really have a problem saying no to Jake. I said, I'll do it if we can get Conrad. Because Conrad's like, you know, the guru of, you know, because he's got a whole, I didn't realize it, but he's got a whole system from PR, people to get to the advertising, to get to the development of the programming, like everything. He's got it all. It's like a turnkey operation. And so he said, I'd love to do it. And that's how it started. And so now we're doing a podcast. And I love the way we started it because I wanted people to know, like, they know what I did for Jake in Resurrection, but they don't know why. But if you watch those first 2 episodes, you know, or listen to them, you realize, these guys have like a real relationship before wrestling. You know, and that's the guy who really pulled me in and made me, because I tried wrestling when I was 23, as you know. That was in 79. And then when wrestling blew up with WrestleMania, I stopped watching until one day I was flicking the channels. I saw Jake. And I was like, this guy, who is this? He's so reality based. And that's when I would eventually become a wrestler. Jake was my biggest inspiration, and to be reality based. And it took me a while, you know, to go from the over the top, bigger than life wrestling, cigars and glasses and gum and, you know, a million gimmicks, just down to being me. Like, no, you can't tell me I'm not going to do something. Like, I'm going to outwork you. You know, like, no, and I'm going to. and everybody, you may be more talented than me, but you're not going to be better than me when it's all said and done. And Jake was my biggest influence through all that.
That's available wherever you get your podcast from. Diamond Dallas Page, I can't thank you for enough for this hour. It's been lovely to sit here and just listen to you go. I can listen to you talk all day long, but I know you've got a very busy schedule. Do you want to plug anything else? We've got Guardians of Justice there. We've got the podcast. We've got Relentless on Amazon Prime. Anything else you want to plug there before we go?
Just DDP Yoga, and anybody's thinking about doing stuff, thinking about it. I'm starting a show. We start filming. That's one reason my phone went switched. People trying to get a hold of me. Where we filmed where we filmed Resurrection of Jake the Snake is a place I call the Accountability Crib. And I rented it the last couple of years because I moved to a bigger place. But I went back and took it over. And the show will be called Change or Die. And we're bringing in 5 people. 2 of them, people will know who they are. 3 of them will be just regular people. And we're going to educate people, inspire people. We're going to, it's not a reality show. It's a docu-series. We're filming everything. We've got 10 cameras in the house. One of my buddies, Josh, will be there when I can't be there. He's going to help me with the training part of it, along with my wife, Paige. And we're going to help these people, hopefully not just change their life, but help them start to own their lives so that they can carry it on without me. And every week we'll have a different challenge. It's kind of like Biggest Loser meets The Apprentice meets Fear Factor. And in this scenario, Fear Factor could be, I don't eat Brussels sprouts. Yeah. You know what I mean? No, I don't eat that. Well, you're going to try, and we're going to try and teach people what real food is and educate them. Like, obviously, the people who will be sponsors, who will be, either in the show or commercials, won't be Domino's, or Burger King or McDonald's or Coca-Cola. They'll be real food and things that are healthier. And I'd rather take less money and have more credibility and show people what they, why this is what it is and what they should be doing. Like, how they can, you just can't change your life by saying, I'm going to lose some weight. Like, you got to change your physical body and you got to change your mindset. And both of those are equally as important. And I always tell people, as most people think, oh, well, food's 80% of it. No, that's wrong. The food and the workout are 10% of the equation. The 90% is between their ears, like the story they tell themselves. And that's what we're going to try to really get over. We've got therapists, we've got doctors. My daughter Brittany was doing the cooking for them and teaching them how to cook for themselves, real food. So, and anybody wants to check that out as it goes, but it'll be worldwide at some point. But go to DDP Yoga, one word, Facebook. Don't listen to a word I say about my program. Go there and read what people write. Can't do that. You can't get people to write like they do. And they're talking about their own lives and what my program's done for them. So that's the deal, my brother. Great talking to you. And I appreciate you letting people know about Guardians of Justice. Check it out on Netflix. See ya.
That was it. DDP on Straight to Hell. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.